What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'll be giving my thoughts on the Battlefield 6 beta. It has came and went. We had 2 weekends of the Battlefield 6 beta. The first couple of days were early access only, and then the rest of the beta period was open to everybody. And I have a lot of thoughts, a lot of things to say about the Battlefield 6 beta, good and bad. So let's dive right in and talk about the Battlefield 6 beta. So I think the Battlefield 6 beta was a huge success for EA and DICE and Battlefield Studios, all that were involved. It seems that most of the reception of the beta was positive. There are some negative things. It wasn't all perfect. There are some things that need to be ironed out. There are some concerns going into the full game, which comes out on October 10th, not August, October 10th. And first of all, I'll just say visually, based on the beta, man, this game looks really good. I went back and played 2042 right after the beta ended because there's an event that just started in 2042 that leads up to Battlefield 6, and you can tell right away. And I mean, I know it's a newer game. The graphics are supposed to be better than the older game, but it's a big difference. I really think that it kind of weighs more on how okay 2042 looks versus how really good Battlefield 6 looks. But visually, the game looks incredible. I've seen people doing out of the map glitches, which is something that, you know, needs to be patched, needs to be fixed if it's something that people can exploit. But just getting launched up in the air and parachuting on a map like Iberian Offensive and seeing the entire map, not just the playable area, but the playable or the area that's not playable all around the map, is all visually stunning. There are fights going on in the ocean, ship battles going on, jets flying around. I mean, the environment and what is going on around the map that doesn't have anything to do with the map, but they just threw that in there just to immerse you even more, I thought was a crazy detail. So visually, Battlefield 6 is looking very, very good. All the maps do have a very distinct feel to them. So far, the maps that we played, we did play 4 maps, which we'll talk more about the maps in just a second. But I just want to go ahead and knock out the visuals. I think the visuals for the beta were very good. Now we'll just go ahead and talk about the maps, because I think the maps are probably the part of the game that right now I have the most concern with. So we got to play 4 maps. That was Iberian Offensive, Siege of Cairo, Liberation Peak, and then on weekend 2 they gave us Empire State. There were supposed to be 9 maps total at launch, 1 remake being Operation Firestorm from Battlefield 3 and 4. Very excited for that to be back, but I don't think the maps were bad or anything like that, but I definitely think that they did not pick the best maps to use for the beta, because Liberation Peak was probably the biggest map that we got, and it's not really that big of a map in terms of Battlefield. By Battlefield standards, the maps that we played in the beta were very small compared to what we usually see in Battlefield games. They have gone on record saying that there will be large-scale maps in the full game, but I think it would have been really smart to just give us one big map to give us a taste of what we should expect from these big maps, and if they're going to play well, how they're going to feel, stuff like that, because the big maps in Battlefield, that's what a lot of people come to Battlefield for, are these huge scale battles, and we still got that with the maps that we have, but I do think that they missed on the opportunity to just give us one big map to play around with. Having 9 maps, and the 4 that we played in the beta weren't that big, it's a little worrying, because we know how big Firestorm is going to be. That map is it's not the biggest map, it's pretty big. I'd say it's probably going to be bigger than the 4 maps we played in the beta, but I just think the size of the maps is what concerns me the most about Battlefield 6, is they've kind of scaled down. We've had smaller maps in the past, but usually they're kind of sprinkled in there, and the bigger maps are the ones that take over and have more control over the game. Those are the maps you're going to be playing the most. But the maps themselves, I don't think they were bad. I think my least favorite was probably Liberation Peak. I didn't think it was a bad map. I just think out of the 4, that was the one that I preferred the least. My favorite map, probably either Iberian Offensive or Empire State. A lot of infantry focus in these maps as well. Empire State being infantry only, but with a map like Iberian Offensive or Siege of Cairo, not a lot of vehicles in those maps either. I don't entirely know off the top of my head if there's even helicopters in those maps. I could be wrong. Let me know down in the comments. But there are tanks, there are transport vehicles, and then Liberation Peak is the one that kind of opens up. There's jets, helicopters, tanks, and stuff like that. The maps were solid, but I'm just hoping that we get a good variety and a good balance of large maps and smaller maps in the full game. That's what concerns me the most so far after playing the Battlefield 6 beta. Now to talk about classes and weapons. I think going back to the 4-class system like we had in the older games is definitely the way to go. The specialist systems in 2042 were not it. They were not thought out well. They just screwed all of Battlefield up, really. It just was not a good idea to go down that route. And they tried to go back on it and put the specialist in these certain classes, but it just did not feel the same. And going back to that 4-class system, it works very well in Battlefield. We know this, and now hopefully they know this for the future. If it isn't broke, don't fix it. Mess around with it a little bit, but keep the pillar classes, assault, engineer, support, and recon. I think the gadgets that we got to use within the classes were fun. I'm hoping for a good variety. We didn't get to use a whole lot, but they were enough to flesh out these classes and make them unique from one another and make them stand out, so you can have your certain playstyle. You can fill that certain role within the sandbox. I think I played a mix between assault and support the most, but I was bouncing around between all the classes. Even recon, when I wasn't really sniping all that much, I would still use recon, use a DMR, and put down motion sensors and spawn beacons and use all the gadgets that I could with the recon. I think they all fit the role that they're supposed to. I think the field specs, which we've kind of seen in the most recent Battlefields, I think 4 brought them in after launch, at least the specializations, and then Battlefield 1 had them. I think 5 possibly did as well. I think if each class has 3 of these field spec classes or options, I think that'd be great to really get nitty and gritty with how you want your assault to play or how you want your support to play. I think that'd be really fun. The weapons felt great. I'm hoping, I saw a leak that there were 44 launch weapons, and if that is the number that we get, I'm going to be so happy with that. That is a great number to hit. That's a great variety. You're not going to be using the same gun over and over again. You're able to bounce around and use different weapons. I think that would be an amazing number to hit. Hopefully that is what they're able to do. But the weapons that we did get to use were fun. I thought the brand new attachment system, kind of like a Pick 10 from Call of Duty, where each of your attachments has a certain point value. So if you want a bunch of smaller attachments on your guns, you can do that. But if you want a couple of bigger attachments, you can kind of pick and choose how you want your gun to look and feel based on the 100-point budget that you were given. I think that's a cool idea, and hopefully they're able to expand on that more, give us a lot of attachments, a lot of variety there. Variety is the key with the weapons. Give us the weapon variety, attachment variety. Let us go crazy and build our own guns. The firing range, also a very nice touch. Very nice touch for the firing range. I think that's going to come in big, and I think that should be in every Battlefield going forward. So the classes and weapons, I think they are nailing it. Hopefully with the full launch, they're able to give us enough gadgets, enough weapons to let us pick and choose and find our playstyle within the sandbox with these 4 classes. I'm excited to see what they can do with that. I want to touch on the modes very quickly because I think it's a very underrated part of this game, because in the last couple of Battlefields, I'd say 5 and 2042, the modes that we've gotten at launch have been very underwhelming. It's been very heavy emphasis on conquest and breakthrough and team deathmatch, and that's pretty much been it. Maybe a couple other modes that I don't remember, but I think even in Battlefield 5 and 2042, I don't think we had rush at launch. Maybe 2042 did, but I'm pretty sure 5 did not have Rush at launch. But obviously Conquest is the pillar Battlefield mode. Don't take that away. That is everyone's favorite mode for the most part. It is the pinnacle of Battlefield having that in there. Breakthrough I've never been a huge fan of. I just think it's just too chaotic for me. That might be a hot take, but having everyone centered in one area for me is just not how I like to play Battlefield. I get the appeal for the people that like Breakthrough. I'm glad it's there for them. But now having Team Deathmatch, which wasn't in the beta, but Rush, Squad Deathmatch, Domination, and King of the Hill being a brand new mode, that worked pretty well, at least I thought. And more modes coming. I think there's one new mode, I don't remember the name of it exactly, but having 7, 8, 9 game modes at launch is great. Having this variety instead of adding them post-launch, have them at launch. Domination and Squad Deathmatch, Rush, all those infantry only modes are really fun to play. There is an issue, I think, with the difficulty of making the maps, but then also these modes not really feel like they work well with the maps, if that makes any sense. Back in like Bad Company 2, it felt like the Rush maps, the maps in the game were built for Rush, and they worked really well with Rush. Whereas it kind of feels like with some objectives in Rush or Domination that the maps were made and then the mode was thrown on top of it and they didn't really test anything out. So hopefully they can work on some maybe sector locations with Rush. I think Domination, the only problem I had was I wish it would just last just a little bit longer, because the matches can go very fast, 6, 7, 8 minutes. If they can hit that 9, 10, 11 minute mark every time, if the points didn't go up as fast, I think that'd be perfect. Domination and King of the Hill and Squad Deathmatch are great modes if you just want to get in and out, infantry only. You don't get as much XP, as much score, but it is a way to play the game. I enjoyed that. I just think that they can mess with the way the maps work with the smaller modes, if that makes any sense, for the full launch, and not have it just kind of feel all jumbled together. But for the most part, the modes I think are a great addition, very underrated feature of Battlefield. Having all these modes at launch is going to be great for variety, being able to bounce back and forth between different game modes. Last thing I want to touch on are a couple of issues I had with the beta. Obviously it is a beta, I'm not expecting it to be perfect, but just a couple of things I want to touch on that hopefully they can address by launch. The first thing is, I think this was on my end, so I'm not saying this was a Battlefield issue. I did have very bad connection issues. I had two different experiences really with the beta. On the first weekend I tried it on PC with Steam and EA, and you'll see in the PC gameplay where I would get very bad lag spikes that would go for like 5 to 10 seconds. I'd come back, everything would come back to real time, and I would probably be dead, if not very close to it. And towards the end of the weekend I would get kicked out of pretty much every match. I do think this is on my end, but let me know if you had connection issues down in the comments. I've played other Battlefield games on PC and I do have these issues, but not nearly as bad and as often as I was during the first weekend of the beta. But then the second weekend I decided that I would try it on Xbox, and I had a very different experience. Very little connection issues, a couple of lag spikes here and there, but no crashes, nothing like that. It was a very smooth experience. So let me know what kind of issues you had, if any, with the connection in the beta. I definitely did during the first weekend, but when you see the Xbox gameplay, you'll see that I was not having any issues with connection whatsoever. One other thing is the HUD. The main menu HUD I think is very clunky. It kind of goes back to the Modern Warfare 2 and 3, the new ones, with the Hulu style HUD. Not a big fan of that. I do hope they can maybe move stuff around and make it a little cleaner, like Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 1's HUD were very good in the main menu. I think the in-game HUD looks fine, looks good, but in the main menu I hope they can make things a little less cluttered and clunky moving around. It is a beta, so it's not a big complaint, just something that I hope they can touch up on before we get the game on October 10th. So that is going to do it for the video. Thank you guys for watching and hanging out, talking about the Battlefield 6 beta. Let me know what your thoughts on the beta were down in the comments. Overall, I am pretty positive coming out of the beta, but I'm also going to be very cautious still going into the full launch. I'm not going to pre-order or anything like that. If you want to, you can go ahead if based on what you played you really enjoyed it and are thinking that the beta and the full game is going to be just as good if not better. But I'm still going to be cautious because this has happened before. 2042 Battlefield 5 did not have great launches. Even Battlefield 4 is known for how bad of a launch it had. They need to nail it out of the gate, but based on what I played in the beta, they have a great foundation that I'm hoping that they can build on and have a great launch out of the gate. I would love for Battlefield to be back like it should be, like it was back with Battlefield 3, 4, and even Battlefield 1. Even 5 and 2042 were great games at the end of their life cycles, or at least good games. Maybe not great, but they were decent games, and they just need to nail it out of the gate. Get it right from day one and not have the huge issues that they've had. But when the game comes out, if people are playing it and no issues are really being had, or at least the big issues that we've seen in the past, I will more than likely get it and hopefully have a great time with it. So that'll do it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more, and I'll talk to you later.